Good morning, everyone. I am Sammy Steele Thomas. I am with Midland Development Corporation. I'm our business retention and expansion coordinator. We are so happy to have you guys here for our May Founders Blend meeting. We've been doing Founders Blend for now a little over a year. We celebrated our 1-year anniversary last April. And when we were putting together Founders Blend, a bunch of these community partners from our local colleges to our local businesses here, we just talked about how we need a space that is intentional for business owners and for business founders. And so we created Founders Blend. And so you're going to hear from 2 local businesses this morning, and they're going to share their story. And then a majority of the time is going to be Q&A with the audience. So as they're sharing their presentations here, if something comes up and you're like, hey, I want to ask about that, or I've been struggling with this in my business, now's your time to brainstorm those questions and ask. And then our business presenters, they're going to stick around here afterwards, and they can, meet one-on-one with you and answer those questions. So before we get started, I have a few people here that we would like to thank. Again, Founders Blend was put together. How many of you, before I get started announcing this is your first Founders Blend, just so I can get a gauge? Well, welcome. We are so excited to have you guys here. Feel free to get up, get coffee throughout this morning, and just sit back and enjoy and try to be as intentional with this hour as you can. So this Founders Blend organization was put together all thanks to community partners, Midland Development Corporation, Second Story Coworking, Midland College's BEDC program, the Midland Chamber of Commerce, UTPB, Film Hunter Media, BAM Entrepreneurial Center, and Answers Marketing. And then this morning, all of our goodies, again, brought to you by Leanda Coffee and Tequila, Urias Remodeling, and Community National Bank. So the 2 businesses that you're going to be hearing from this morning are the Energy People Group and Phases of Design. I'm going to start with Phases of Design. Here's a little background on that business. Phases of Design is an interior design firm focusing on residential and commercial projects for both new construction and remodels, providing interior design services at all phases of design, including initial consultation, design development, construction documents, procurement, project management to final occupancy. The company is structured to furnish homeowners, business owners, and contractors an a la carte of services that suits their needs. So without further ado, the owner behind that business, Aaron Wallander.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so I don't know the mic. If I talk too loudly or too quickly, I'll look at one of you and tell me either lower or higher. So as Sammy just said, my name is Erin Wallander. I am the owner of Phases of Design. Today, I'm going to take a moment just to kind of walk you through the journey that got me to where my business is right now, just because I hope that it resonates in some of you. You maybe already experienced it, or you're going through it right now, and I hope I can be as helpful as possible. Oh, I don't have a clicker. Oh, okay. All right, so my journey started with my family. We built all the houses. I grew up in Billings, Montana. We built all of our houses. So this really fueled my fire to be somewhere in the building industry. I went to school in Colorado. When I graduated, the economy was completely flat. I was young, a newly graduated kid, student loans to the galore, and no prospect of jobs. I completely freaked out. I clearly confided in my parents again. They're like, we live in North Dakota now. It's another basin called the Bakken, if anybody of you have heard of it. So it was booming. They're like, there's hire signs on every single building here. Come and get a job. And I was like, man, I got to leave beautiful Colorado and go to North Dakota. So I did. Packed up my stuff, went there, and literally knew nobody. I went, knocked on all the doors, had to meet somebody. And finally, after talking to many, many people and being very obnoxious, I had the perfect opportunity to come to a man that was wanting to create a department in architecture because he had a commercial firm. So I built his dream. A year and a half later, we were very successful, and I decided, why am I building his? I'd really like to build my own. I started my own company. I was young. I was very naive. It was so much harder than I could have imagined. So most of my learning lessons were in failures, but the company did end up finally doing okay. During that time, I took my NCIDQ, which is certification for interior design, and I got registered in Texas because my husband found out we were going to be moving to Houston. My entire life, I thought I wanted to work with a huge commercial firm. And it ended up that I didn't. Even though I landed the job, I worked it, I didn't love it. Moved to Midland, perfect timing, March 2020, where all the doors were closed and nobody wanted to meet anybody. So I thought I was gonna come here to start a business. Instead, I needed to figure out another workplace. So I went completely virtual. I found a company in California, I worked with them. And as you all know, we learned a lot. 2020 and 2021, we were all working remotely. We had never done this. This virtual realm was completely, well, to me, I didn't know anything about it. So I learned a lot. 2021, the company unfortunately closed. They couldn't make it through. I had 3 months to figure out what I wanted to do. And that was kind of my kick in the butt to put efforts into phases of design. So I did. I went and knocked on every door. I met every realtor possible. And the efforts were very, very interesting. And it took a while. Why do I keep putting the clicker down? Okay. It took a while to kind of get my bearings of this community because it's very tight knit. So challenges of phases of design here, welcome to where I am now. It's really been educating people on what an interior designer is. So oftentimes in small towns, people wear many hats. So when I say I'm an interior decorator, people are like, oh, you select pillows and you do curtains. I'm like, no. I'm an interior designer. The architect does the envelope of the building and I do all the things inside of it. And that's really been a challenge, is just educating people on what I do. Another challenge, social media. Every single time I've been to a meeting, every one of you or every presenter has been like, social media is so hard. I can't agree more. I don't have an answer. And I hope if one of you do, please come see me after. But I feel like it's an algorithm I'm constantly chasing, and I'm the turtle and it's the rabbit. So if anybody has had success in that, I don't yet. It's still a very big challenge. Learning, right? We're all still learning. Importance of being different. I have noticed, like, there are other interior designers and there's other people doing what you do. The biggest importance to me, I think, is knowledge. Knowledge is value. If you are the expert in what you do, when someone comes to you to hire you and they trust that you have the most knowledge base, you're gonna land that job. And to me, that's the most important part. The upside to my business, I get to meet some incredible people. And I think all of you do too. A lot of times when you are a business owner, the value is who you get to meet and the experiences that you get to gain by meeting those people. So I really do enjoy, that's probably one of the biggest upsides to my business. Another, setting your own schedule. We own a business, we're working 1,000,000 hours. So I'm not saying I take a hiatus for a month and I'm like, okay, work's gonna wait for a minute. You're working crazy hours, but you're able to do your own schedule. And that's really important for all of us. So I think that's probably the biggest upside as well. Advantages to Midland. So in my career as an interior designer or in the construction realm, Midland has highs and lows all the time. We're an oil company, we're an oil town. So what's nice about me is when we're in lows, my remodels and my renovations are going crazy. And then we're in really good highs, my new construction's going really well. So I would have to say, advantage to being in Midland is there's always gonna be an opportunity. You just have to figure out and move with the times. Disadvantages, this is talked about a lot with other people that have been here. Hiring, so getting quality workers and keeping quality workers, especially contractors and subcontractors. When you live in an oil town, oil companies pay big money. And when you're building homes, everyone who's buying a home or everyone who's running a business is trying to keep the cost as low as possible. So it's very difficult to hire and keep somebody hired when I can only pay them so much to keep the overall cost of a project down. So I would say that's a huge disadvantage to Midland, unfortunately. I'm still trying to figure it out. Successes in business. I think the success of mine is the grind. I truly do value, we're hustling. We're out here trying to build a business. So if you just take a moment and just celebrate the baby wins, that's gonna fuel your fire and keep you going, honestly. So I really do think a success is just grinding through the day and getting to the end of it and tomorrow seeing what you were getting better at doing. The next is client reviews and referrals. If you get a referral, take a beat and celebrate what you've done. Because as soon as somebody else is talking about your business, you are so much further than when you started, and you should just really celebrate that. And I do. When I get a review, I like jump up and down like a little crazy person. But that is a huge success as well. What's next? This is a very difficult question. And I personally don't want to put a cap on what's next. I have goals. I know I want my business to grow, but my what's next is tomorrow. And I feel like whenever you're in a business, you have to learn from the dailies. You have to, if something's not working, you got to go in a different direction. I love that saying, hire fast, fire faster. That's not just for employees, for how you're doing your business. So if your business, something's not working, drop it quick and figure out a different avenue to make it work. So that's kind of me. That's my journey. I hope that it resonated in some of you. Founders Blend, I absolutely adore this crew, and I really appreciate the community. Thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you, Erin. That was great. Well, you said a lot of great things just about your business and just how far you've grown since that college student that was just really looking for a job. You've come a long ways. But something that stuck out to me, you talk about, okay, and you had a very unique situation with COVID-19 happening. The pandemic's happening, but also Midland is a tight-knit community. And so it takes time to make those relationships.
Absolutely.
How did you do that?
It was obnoxious.
So glad you asked.
No, I think it was really honestly just continue to work, like be a part of the community. So Midland's tight knit, and it seems when you're outside of it, it's really frustrating, and you just wonder why and how are people acting this way. But once you're in and you put the effort, it's so worth it. The value there, I mean, it's a lot of work. I would say, so I'm 3.5 years in Midland, or in my company in Midland. And I would say only 2 years ago did I feel like I was like, okay, people are starting to really like maybe know about my business. And only probably 3 years, I was like, oh yeah, people know phases of design. Well, probably not all of you, but some people knew phases of design. So it was hard, but worth it.
And you got to give yourself grace.
Yes.
Because it does take time.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah.
And you also mentioned something that I'm sure a lot of these business owners can resonate with. Social media is changing constantly. Mm-hmm. And something with interior design is it's really visual.
Yes.
How do you incorporate making sure that you're telling your story appropriately in the digital space?
That's really difficult. So images is everything. And there's so many other people doing what I'm doing. So it's really important to put out quality product, quality imagery. So unfortunately, you have to spend a lot of money at the beginning of it to make sure that people are seeing your images. So I would say hire people. I'm good at what I do, and I'm a great interior designer, but I'm not a social media person, and I don't do that part. So one thing I've learned through my business, when you first start, you're like, I can do everything, and I'm going to get all of this done, and I'm not going to spend all this money. But what you start to learn, you need other people. You're good at what you do, and other people are going to be able to help you through it. So it's really hiring that out.
And has that made it easier on you?
Kind of. I would say yes. I'm very obsessed. I'm obsessive. So
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So I would say it's better, and it's great because they do it for me. So those hours are gone, but it's your business. Like, this is your face. So I would say you're still looking at it and concentrating on it every single day. I'm just not the person doing it. Thank goodness.
And I feel like so much of being an entrepreneur, to an extent, is learning to let go of control.
Yes.
And letting it just hit the market how it may, and learning from what happens. Absolutely. And how the community responds.
Yeah, learning is everything. Every single day is something different.
And now you've done this business in 3 different communities, or interior design in 3 different communities. What would you say is especially unique about, because there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs here where they're just getting started in Midland. What would you say is something unique about starting a business here in Midland?
Unique. Oh.
In contrast to North Dakota, to Denver.
I would say networking is very difficult here. There's really not, when you're in a bigger city, I mean, I had ASID and NKBA and all these different places to be able to go and talk with colleagues. So I would say something that is difficult here is being able to find somebody to talk to about your company and what you're doing, and they're in the same position as you. So I would say thank you, Founders Blend, of course. But I have so many friends and colleagues that say, there's somebody else in the town doing what I'm doing. How dare they? Like, I got to make sure to be better. But no, go find those people and become friends with them, because you're going to help one another. So I would say the networking and being able to have somebody kind of be on your team and talk to, that's been a different thing here. But honestly, the community's been great. Like, once you meet your friends and you have your colleagues, you just got to be brave. It's so scary to go put yourself out there and go talk to somebody, just like you showed up here today. People who just got here for the first time, you were probably nervous, and the nerves are good. When you're nervous about something, you're passionate about it. So I would say putting yourself out there is probably one of the most important things.
Yeah, that's a really good takeaway, putting yourself out there. And then you also touched on the education aspect to interior design, which you educated me in this process. I was like, oh, this is so fun. I'm going to meet with an interior decorator. How cute. I love HGTV. And you were like, wow, I actually do a lot of math.
Leave my house.
And I'm basically an engineer. And I was like, oh, okay, well. So there's a lot of educating that you do.
Yes.
How do you do that?
How do I learn more?
How do you educate the public about, okay, well, actually, interior design, there's a lot more to it than you might think.
Well, speaking of grace,
yeah, true.
At first I was very rude about it. I was like, how dare you call me a decorator? But no, it's really fine.
But now I'm doing that to people. I'm like, no, she's a designer.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're
I have other people too. Once I educate people, it seems like it's kind of becoming a wave. But yeah, at the beginning it was hard. It was just, I kept on doing videos on my social media trying to be like interior designer versus interior decorator. And I tried saying like nurse practitioner versus a nurse. Like, you just figure out different ways to explain to people what it is I do. Because it is strange. And if you aren't in my field, you're like, oh, you pick pillows. And I just got to keep on talking to people and telling them I do not pick pillows. Yeah.
Well, when you showed me all the blueprints in the computer system side of things, I was like, yeah, no, you do not pick out pillows. That sounds way easier and much nicer.
Much easier. Yes.
Much nicer. And then, you talked also about those referrals, and slowly but surely, once you build a clientele, how just motivating that can be to keep going in your business. What is your piece of advice to some business owners in the room where they don't have that referral yet, and they're like so close to waving the white flag, which I'm sure you've had your moments of.
Yeah. I cried a lot.
Cried a lot. Healthy though. Healthy. You made it through. How do you keep going when you're like, is anybody even going to utilize my business?
Right.
What keeps you going?
You have to believe in yourself. You started this business for a reason. You had an idea and you started. If you finish, all this work that you put in is wasted. So like I said previously, your daily wins, do your little celebrations, because you started at zero. And even if at one day you might have had a setback, there's going to be something the next day that's going to fuel your fire and keep you going. So I would just say, celebrate your little wins. That's going to get you to those bigger moments.
That was a great answer. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
How's the process of working with a builder? Because you do a lot of math and it's kind of like a science. So if you're working with a builder to blend interior design, how does that work?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Great question. So I actually work oftentimes with builders. They come find me and I do all of their blueprints for going through permitting process. It's really great. I absolutely love the builders I work with. It actually makes it easier for me because the client then has two people to be mad at. So as far as working with a builder, if they come to me first and they provide me the client, they're my point of contact. And we just literally, I contract to them. The client comes to me to go through the process of design, and then we give the prints to the builder. And oftentimes I go through all the way with the builder through project management. So that actually makes it really easy, because usually clients come to me, and if it's an individual, I still need to find them a builder. So if the builder comes to me, it actually closes that window, because like I mentioned previously, hiring somebody that's quality and referring builders, it's difficult here. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, back to the contractors. Again, it's just sounds like it's all about relationships because those contractors then build a relationship with you. They prioritize your jobs more so than maybe a oil field job or something like that. And that took time for you as well to build that network of contractors and kind of weed out, oh, I work well with this person. I don't work well with that person. Walk me through that whole experience because that's vital in getting your jobs done.
Yeah. So when I first got here, I didn't have anybody in my Rolodex. So when I would finish a project, the client was like, "Ooh, who would you recommend?" And I'd be like, "Oh man, I know this company, but I don't know how great they are. Other people say they're good." So it was honestly just trial and error. Uh, Jesus, who provided the delicious food, I met him over a project, and I mean, he's wonderful, and I keep him in my pocket. I try and keep him as close as possible. So when you find good people, you just keep them in your pocket, and you just keep trying to meet more. So meeting homeowners, a lot of times they'll have somebody, so you just go out and meet and greet, and yeah, if it works and it hits home, it's great.
And I like what you said about, okay, well, what's next for phases of design? And you said, the sky is the limit, really. I don't want to put it into words because it could be even more than that. I feel like that's just a really good perspective to have where those goals of yours can be so astronomical, but also super attainable. I just thought that was that's just such a great perspective of, I don't know what's next. And especially as someone how many of you are like type A business owners? I feel like that tends to be a theme. And it's good to just have faith in what's next will be what's next.
And that, going back to you saying, how do people keep going? Small goals, start small. I want to get this done this week, or I want to get this done this month. And that will be your little win. So small goals helps with that to keep you going.
And what has been your favorite experience since starting Phases of Design here in Midland, where, on those tough days, you can just remind yourself of, hey, that was an awesome situation or an awesome product. What's been one of your best wins?
I have many, I think. Because I think of that. I'm a positive thinker for the most part. But finishing projects is kind of the biggest thing. So when you have a client that literally cries because they love their space so much, I mean, I'll keep that until I die. Like, I will always remember that moment where they're giving me a hug and they're so happy. And that's kind of the biggest win for me.
That would be a big win, I imagine. Well, let's give Erin a round of applause. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much.
Erin has also been a faithful Founders Blend attendee, so we are grateful to be able to showcase your business. Okay, the next business you're going to hear from is the Energy People Group. It's Midland's premier HR consulting firm founded by Melissa Hooper. Melissa has brought together a team of HR experts with Fortune 500 level HR experience to serve the growing small to medium business sector here in the Permian. The Energy People Group provides strategic, full-cycle HR advisory and support services from recruiting, onboarding, and policy development to performance management, training, and succession planning. Here to tell you more about her journey is Melissa Hooper.
Everybody hear me? Yay, okay. So I'm Melissa. I am a born and raised Midlander, actually third generation. We do exist. In fact, some of what we're going to talk about today is who your network is, and whether you're, I'm here or not, your network and who you know in your community is super important to your business journey. So thank y'all for having me today, and I'm so excited to kind of chat with you. So I want to talk about getting started. You are going to do things scared, and I would even say possibly terrified. And that's okay. You're challenging yourself. So when I started out, it's so funny. Our journeys kind of have a similar path. So I'm a former Concho, and when ConocoPhillips acquired Concho during the pandemic, I found myself liberated in the middle of the pandemic with 0 job prospects and a mortgage to pay. And so I started up the Energy People group. I kind of looked around and I was like, gosh, there's got to be other small to medium-sized businesses that really need people operations, high quality human resource management. And as we hear over and over again in the Permian Basin, talent is our number one challenge, but also our opportunity. And you'll realize your challenge will become your biggest strength. So for example, when, kind of starting up, my business, the most important thing is people, your talent, because that is who you're sending out there in the world to deliver your vision. And so that has become super important in what comes next for your business. So I felt so ill prepared. The pandemic, no one could have seen that coming. No one could have seen the sale of the company coming. And I certainly never thought I would be laid off. And also my husband at the time, by the way, had been laid off too. So we had like $0 coming in. And I was like, God, like, why, why is this happening? And then I kind of realized I would never have had the gumption or the courage. I hate to say it, but I was kind of chicken. I would never have done this on my own. I needed a big push. And so your biggest challenge is going to be your biggest opportunity. And you're going to realize that you are exactly where you need to be. And you have all of the tools and skills needed to accomplish that. So just remember, when you're starting out on your entrepreneurial business and you feel like, oh my gosh, like I need more of this, or I'm not prepared, or there's someone better out there. No, you are exactly where you need to be. So you're in the right place at the right time. Local community is powerful. So look at this group around you. This is your network. So I know Jared from like way back in the day, junior high days. And shout out to Jared. But it's so funny how your community becomes your network. I've reconnected through nonprofit boards, volunteering, the junior league. I see my folks around all the time, and the more you give your networking, the more it gives back to you. Your local community is powerful. You'll also notice this door right here. So I got my start at Second Story. I literally left Concho, walked, it was kind of more than across the street, but I walked down the road and I signed up for an office here. And I want everyone to know like what a great thing it is to have something like this in our community, because I don't think anyone would have taken my business seriously had I not had a physical, professional location. So I want to give like Second Story a shout out and thank y'all very much for the vision to put this in our community. So this is the door. This is where it all started. And very quickly we outgrew our space and we had to go and rent and get offices and do all of the things, but we never, I don't think, would have been taken as seriously as we were had we not had the vision to get here, get networked, and get a physical location. Seek opportunities to connect with other entrepreneurs and organizations that support them. So Founders Blend is a great example of that. You will realize that your challenges, I was listening to your presentation and I was like, holy moly, like this is like playbook, like kind of some of the struggles that I went through. And you'll kind of hear some similar messages as well. So just remember, like your network, get out there and like leverage your community connections and also seek other opportunities to connect maybe with a diverse group of folks that you would not normally think to connect with. Slide. So challenges and opportunities. You are going to hit these all the times. And I love the idea of having kind of like mini wins, celebrate those daily wins. Like sometimes it's like, hey, I made it. Like it's 5:00 and I'm not dead. But the biggest challenge for me was getting the word out to the right audience. Because who wants a human resources friend? 0% of people. Like people run, like they hear I'm in human resources and they're like, bye, like see you later. So one of the biggest challenges was getting the word out to the right audience. And in a way, Midland didn't have, this type of business, and people really didn't understand the need for human resources and the people operations side of things. And so I find myself as like chief educator in the Midland market for human resources, workforce development. And you see, I think the Midland Development Corporation had an article, come out in the MRT the other day about workforce being one of our number one challenges and how do we address that? So getting the word out and then also educating your clients has been my biggest challenge, but it's also been the most fun because I'm like, hey, listen, this is why you need human resources and this is why you need us. Our biggest opportunity has been opening up a local training center. So we achieved 3 years in March. I made it 3 years. And, my team has been amazing. And we've had like such, astronomical growth and it's been wonderful. But I can't help but think when I look at the paper and I hear other entrepreneurs and we talk about talent and what's out there and, how do we align what people are getting educated in to what the market needs. And it really made me think about we need like a training center somewhere like vocational, somewhere where people can go and learn about themselves and their aptitudes and their competencies, where managers can go and get training, right? So out here, there's a lot of folks who get promoted because they're, the most technically capable, but they don't have those soft skills. They don't have those people skills. And so that's a big need. So, our unemployment out here is going to stay relatively low. The natural rate of unemployment where supply and demand are at equilibrium is about 4.4%. And I think we've been hovering around 2.3% of unemployment. So we are way overemployed. So the future of recruiting is training. And so we're so excited to be kind of doing this next evolution of, what human resources looks like out here. And we can't wait to share it with all of y'all. All right, so the key takeaway, come from a place of yes. There's a lot of times I want to say, no, I'm not ready for this. This is terrifying. Like, I'm not qualified. But then I had to kind of have a pep talk with myself and say, hey, I'm in the right place at the right time. I've got all of the skills and abilities that I need. I'm going to say yes. And then secondly, take every knock as a nudge in the right direction. It might feel like a knock. It might feel like a detraction. It might feel like getting off course, but it's truly setting you on the path for success. Thank you.
That was great, Melissa. I love that. Take every knock as a nudge in the right direction.
That's what I tell myself in the morning.
That is great advice. And I'm sure, that was very important. Or now you can see the big takeaway in that when, you hear Concho is selling and you're like, huh? Where am I going to work? What am I going to do?
And it was such a great company and I had such great opportunities there. And it was my time. It was my time to kind of step out and do something that was bigger than myself and frankly terrifying. But I'm so grateful for the opportunity and, all of the things that kind of happened therein because it's just been such an incredible journey.
And now, you work with so many small and medium-sized businesses and you can understand that entrepreneurial perspective when they're scared about, oh, we've grown really, really fast and I don't know how to do timesheets.
Right.
Or
I have my first employee relations issue.
How do I do this?
Someone's not wearing shoes to the office. How do I explain to them that, shoes are standard practice?
See, that seems just like it actually was a conversation.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, of course.
And like sneak peek, y'all, shoes are a thing, so please wear them to work.
That's really good. Good to know. Walk me through, you must have just had to have faith throughout that whole experience. And now you're on the other side of it for the most part. You've got a well-established office. You've got staff. What do you wish you could tell Melissa then in 2020 what you know now?
Gosh, stressing about the small stuff didn't get me anywhere. It was a waste of energy. And I wish I could have told Melissa in the middle of pandemic with spouse jobless, me jobless, and starting up this business. I wish I could have told her, like, the small things that you are stressing about do not move the needle in the long run. And then to kind of take a little bit, better care of managing that stress in myself and in my body, because, that's a thing. That really impacts our ability to kind of think clearly and, keep putting one foot in front of the other and actioning things. So, for all of you entrepreneurs out there, managing your stress level and staying positive is going to be your number one biggest weapon to being successful.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, now that you've been around for a few years and you've got a clientele, do you feel like you're getting into a rhythm where you know how to manage that stress now and manage, I think I'm reaching my pushing limit here?
Yes, yes, and no, because every day is different. And I'm in the people space, so I'm there for everybody's worst day and their best day. I mean, and anywhere in between.
That's HR.
Yep. Superheroes. But, and you sometimes get that, 11 o'clock call or that call on a holiday. But, truly, I think staying centered in myself, and just remembering that, the small things, what is the critical path, kind of always going back to that and having some type of touchstone. So I wouldn't say I'm perfect at it, but I'll say I'm a hell of a lot better than I was. I'll let y'all know when I figure it out.
And then also talk me through, you started off at Second Story and then you built out a space, and building out a space is not a small feat in Midland, especially in downtown Midland. What was that experience like?
It was a journey, not a destination.
A journey.
It was a journey. I wish I would have had some other resources in my network, but that's truly where you can leverage the knowledge of other folks. You don't have to know everything, but it was super important to think about the long-term vision for the company. Every time I achieved a goal, I was like, wow, this is getting a lot bigger than my first vision. And then the second vision got a lot bigger than the second vision. And so now I'm on the third vision of, kind of really helping out, look at all the merger and acquisition activity around, town and in the space, and some of the consolidation that's happening. People are at the core of that, and you have to help them through that. There's core business documents that you need, and sometimes you get little HR surprises. And so the next iteration, of this is becoming, kind of at a bigger, more, systematic, strategic level. And then that's also where the training center comes in.
Yeah. So how is the training center working out? Explain that a little bit more to me.
So what's really important, I think, this day and age, particularly with hybrid work, and then also some of the disruptions we've just kind of seen in our just our business as usual, right, over the last 5 years, people really need connection. They really need connection. They really need soft skills. And so the ability to bring folks together into a space much like this, where you're able to get people together to connect, we will never be able to replace that. So team buildings, being able to get in a room with someone, or even just to kind of do some personal development, kind of running through some aptitude testing, learning about yourself and how you interact. I mean, even learning your conflict style. Are you an avoider? Are you a collaborator? Are you, someone who prefers to kind of have a little bit more of a direct, conversation? All of that can be really helpful in getting you self-aware and how you present to the rest of the world, because that's what a lot of interacting and soft skills and social skills is being aware of who I am and how that presents to the rest of the world and how it impacts people.
And something that I hear about from a lot of small businesses is because the demand is always there in Midland. And so sometimes you will have this massive business and you'll have a business owner that has little to no experience when it comes to managing people because, their path of growth hasn't necessarily been the most organic. It's happened rapidly. And so all of a sudden, when you're in charge of managing a team of 30, 40 plus people, and you're just used to day-to-day logistics, that can be a lot. What do you tell those business owners? And now, you've walked through this as well, when growth has happened and now they have a team that is looking to them for how to conduct themselves and grow and be professional.
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. So I got my start in the HR space actually on USAID humanitarian projects. My project was in Afghanistan, in Kabul, outside the wire. And the first thing that I realized is how important what you just asked is. And, sometimes when we are leading teams and we're looking at people who need something from us, we feel really ill-equipped. And one of the things that I think will really help, folks out here, and we talked about a little bit earlier, in the oil and gas space, sometimes the most technically competent person becomes the supervisor, because that's really important, right? And even in other businesses, just the most technically competent, the person who can do the job, make the widget, do the thing the best is the person who kind of rises to the top. That doesn't mean that they come baked in with people skills. And so the most important thing is that's not something you're expected to be born with and know, but you got to be curious about it. You got to be curious about, how do I lead people better? How do I connect with them? How do I communicate better. And as long as you have that curiosity, the resources and the ability to learn is going to be yours.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. And now your team is how big at the Energy People?
So we are 5 people strong. We are lean, mean, strong, and mighty. Some days it feels like more. Some days it feels like less. Some days I feel like I need 100 people. Some days I feel like I need a nap. But we are 5.
5. Well, you're talking to a team of 3 over here, so preaching to the choir.
Yep, we can do amazing things.
But it just is a matter of delegating and communicating that.
Yes.
And so you have such a unique perspective. I mean, Erin talked about how she's not from this area and she started her business in Midland. Well, there's also, there's baggage when it comes to you are from Midland and now you're starting a business here. And I'm sure when you're talking to clients, they'll know, oh, I know your dad or I know your
Yeah, I taught you in
sibling.
3rd grade and you were terrible at spelling. And I'm like, well, that hasn't changed, but thank God for spell check.
And so how do you develop that relationship where they start to see you as a professional and not as a 3rd grader struggling in spelling?
Well, I think first of all, having a good sense of humor and some humility, about it is always good. But, what I've found in the community is that people really care and they want to see you successful. And they are just so pumped, to see, entrepreneurs and folks in the community doing, entrepreneurial things. And they really value the contribution. And so it has actually been, so easy. One, it's just kind of fun to reconnect. I'm like, oh, that was bad. But also it's just fun to kind of, for everyone to see how far I've come. I can make sentences now. So
That's always a win. Always a win. Celebrating those little wins.
Well, daily wins.
Does anyone have any questions for Melissa? Yes, Ginger.
I really like the name.
Oh, thank you.
I'd be interested to hear how, I can probably guess what you've done that name. But also, are you focusing mainly on Midland or are you not? Are you looking at growing outward?
That's a great question. So for those in the audience who may or may not have been able to hear, Ginger was asking about the origin of the name, the Energy People Group. So it's kind of twofold. It's kind of a play out. We're in the Petroplex, so that's kind of the obvious piece. But truly, like the Energy People, think about like the most core thing to your business is your people and your people assets and your the folks doing the work. And so we really wanted to think about like how do we bring energy to people in business. And so we bring energy through training, through development, through coaching, through all of the work that we're doing through best business practices. And so that's kind of how we arrived at the Energy People Group name, because we really bring that energy to your business in the people operations space. The second question was, are we just Midland based? And then, do we have any plans on expanding out? So we are Midland based. We do work Permian wide. I've had, clients in, Houston and, folks elsewhere. It's funny as the word gets out, we don't have a monopoly on people problems or people challenges. And what has been so fun and kind of learning about, educating folks in this space is that this is a need everywhere. And so when, we work with different companies or, sometimes in my line of work, we've got to work with like lawyers or we've got to work with, other business consultants or accountants, and they get word of, who we are and what we do. And they start referring, right? Because they're like, hey, I've got this client who doesn't know how to run payroll or someone needs a handbook. And so it's kind of grown outside of this. And I think people are people 24/7. And so there's always going to be a need, whether it's in, the Midland area or, elsewhere. Thank you.
Yeah, those were great questions. Any other questions for Melissa here?
Come on, y'all. You got your HR friend up here.
Yes.
Starting something that really wasn't established, how'd you decide on your pricing model?
Ooh, trial and error. Trial and error. So we started off with a kind of monthly all-you-can-eat option and quickly learned that, you can really quickly overrun your margins, doing that. And so we had to go to an hourly model and then think about, okay, how do we make this affordable and approachable to businesses? And so then we kind of, approached it from like a bucket of hours, like a target bucket of hours for folks to kind of budget every week. Some weeks are, bigger users than others. And so we kind of borrow from weeks, but for the most part, we tried to harmonize that. And we did do an hourly rate after I learned my lesson on the all-you-can-eat buffet concept. Don't recommend it.
It just takes experience. You just learn from, we're never going to do that again.
And you're going to make mistakes. You're going to try things. You're going to lose money. You're going to try other things. You're going to make money. Don't be afraid to experiment. Just keep that line of communication open with your clients.
Yeah, that's a great point. Any other questions? Well, before we close out here, Melissa, I'm sure there will be a plethora of people coming up to you asking all the HR questions. You'll be the
HR lab. Come find me.
Really, really. What would you say is your biggest advice for business owners that are starting their business, they're growing their team, and they have the opportunity to set the tone for that business? What's your advice?
So company culture is a real thing. It comes from the top and it comes from leadership. So you might have to take inventory on what is most important to me. So for me, efficiency, confidentiality, accountability, those are 3 core things for me and my business. And I drive that down into everything we do. So remember that in a small business, your core values are probably going to be the core values for the business. So the first thing would be that. Remember that who you are, your core, what you believe is super important. And then the second is, I think in startup, everyone's going a million miles a minute, and I made this mistake in my own business too. So it's something I've had to learn. But we sometimes don't think about that internal structure. So if you think about like a concrete pillar, you got to get the rebar in there, right? So when a strong gust of wind or the ground settling, it doesn't knock it over. That is your people structure, your people architecture in your business, your payroll, your handbook, policies and procedures. That sets the expectations, job descriptions. That sets the expectations for your people and helps you communicate your vision and your values.
Yeah, that's really well said. Well, thank you so much for your time. Let's give Melissa a round of applause.
Thank you.
Something I didn't warn with those coffee mugs, that we did get them from discountmugs.com. So you can't put them in your dishwasher. They're a beautiful hand wash mug. Yes, it's a great pen holder. It's a really good pen holder. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us here at our Founders Blend meeting. We invite you to stick around, network, meet someone new. We've got plenty of coffee and breakfast foods to enjoy. As a reminder, our next meeting will be in June 6th, and we are going to be moving to the Cogdale Learning Center in June. Something that we thought was important when we got Founders Blend started was to bring this to all different parts of the community. So we've been downtown the past few months. We're going to go to Cogdale Learning Center, closer. It's basically like 1 minute from here, but it's on the other side of the tracks. So the south side. And then we also will then go west and we'll be at the Seed Center in the fall at UTPB's engineering campus. And then from there, we will come back to Midland College, which is more centralized Midland. And that way we can just reach different parts of the community throughout this. And I will not be at next month's Founders Blend meeting. And then we will be taking a break in July. And then August, we will be at UTBB. I will be just enjoying a little new baby. So that's where I'll be in June. But all of our team will still be there. And we have really great businesses that you'll be hearing from. Venture Robotics is one of them, and Southside Barbershop is another. Those are just 2 really unique stories. And so we hope to see you at the Cogdale Learning Center off Florida. That's Midland College's campus. And please stick around, chit chat with one another. You're welcome to come up and ask us questions. As a reminder, if you're interested in presenting your business, volunteering, donating, there's a QR code on some signs around here that you can fill out, and that way someone from our team will reach out to you. Okay, well, we hope you guys enjoy the rest of your May. We'll see you in June.